Okay, let's be real. We all want a brighter, more confident smile, right? But the second you start looking into professional whitening, you just hit this wall of confusing science. You've got hydrogen peroxide, carbamide peroxide. What's the deal? Well, today we're going to break it all down and get you some clear answers.
So the big question is, what's really the difference between the main treatments you'll see out there? More importantly, how do you pick the one that's going to give you the results you're dreaming of, without all the nasty side effects? Stick with me, because by the end of this, you are going to know exactly what's right for you. All right, first things first. Before we can even talk about whitening, we've got to get to the root of the problem. I mean, why do our teeth get stained and lose their brightness in the first place? Turns out it's not just one simple thing. It's a whole bunch of factors that pile up over a lifetime. So yeah, we all know about the obvious culprits, right? Decades of coffee, tea, wine, that's a given. But it's way more than that. Our teeth just naturally get darker as we get older and lose minerals. And some of these causes are actually pretty surprising. Like this one, desiccation. Did you know that even just breathing through your mouth can dry your teeth out and make them look darker? Wild, right? And all these things, they just build on top of each other, year after year. Okay, so how in the world do we reverse all that? Well, it's not about just scrubbing the stains off the surface. That's not how it works. It's all about chemistry. So let's get our lab coats on and take a look at what's actually happening on a molecular level inside your tooth. The key words to remember here are dynamic and diffusion. This is so important. The whitening agent isn't just cleaning the surface of your teeth. It has to actually get inside the tooth to do its job. So a good way to think about it is this. It's less like trying to scrub a coffee stain off a white shirt, and a lot more like changing the actual color of the coffee molecules themselves. So this whole process really breaks down into 3 key steps. First, that peroxide gel has to diffuse. It's got to soak into your enamel and dentin. Second, it oxidizes. That just means it breaks down and releases these super reactive oxygen molecules. And now, here is the magic part. These little oxygen molecules don't actually remove the stain. What they do is they attack the chemical bonds of the discolored compounds and just, poof, they make them colorless. This is what changes the way light reflects off your teeth, making them look so much whiter. Okay, so we've established that peroxide is the key ingredient here. But in the world of professional whitening, you're really going to run into 2 main players. So let's meet our main contenders. And right here, this is the fundamental difference between the two. You've got hydrogen peroxide, let's call it HP for short. Think of it as the pure, ready-to-go whitening agent. It gets to work the instant it touches your teeth. Then you've got carbamide peroxide, or CP. This one's more like a slow-release capsule. It has to break down first into hydrogen peroxide and another compound before it can start working. So it's a much slower, more gradual process. So this brings us to the million-dollar question. Which one is actually better? Well, the answer, it's not so simple. It really comes down to this fundamental trade-off, this showdown between speed and power on one side and comfort and sensitivity on the other. And honestly, this is the heart of the whole debate. Now, the research on this paints a really clear picture. If you look at the initial results, right out of the gate, hydrogen peroxide just takes off. Its whitening effect is way more dramatic at the beginning. But here's what's super interesting. Over the full course of treatment, look what happens. Carbamide peroxide totally catches up. It's like hydrogen peroxide wins the sprint, but in the end, it's a tie in the marathon. Okay, so effectiveness is one thing, but let's talk about the ouch factor. Because anyone who's ever had sensitive teeth knows that comfort is a huge, huge deal. And this, right here, is where these 2 chemicals really start to go their separate ways. And don't just take my word for it. This quote comes from what's called a systematic review. Now, that's basically the gold standard in scientific evidence. It's where researchers take a fine-tooth comb to the results of tons of different studies all at once. And what was their conclusion? It was crystal clear. People using high-concentration hydrogen peroxide were statistically way, way more likely to report sensitivity. And here's a number to really drive that point home. One key study calculated something they called a global immediate sensitivity score. And check this out. On average, the score for hydrogen peroxide was about twice as high as it was for carbamide peroxide. That is a difference you can definitely feel. So why? Why is there such a big difference in sensitivity? Well, let's zoom way in, down to the microscopic level. On one side, you've got healthy, normal enamel. See how it has that nice, organized, keyhole-like pattern? Now, look at the other side. This is enamel after just 60 minutes with high concentration hydrogen peroxide. That neat pattern is, well, it's gone. It's all disrupted. The researchers have a fancy term for it, a loss of prism homogeneity. But basically, it just means the structure looks rougher and less uniform. And here's the kicker. The same study found 0 of these changes with carbamide peroxide. This strongly suggests that hydrogen peroxide's raw power comes at a cost. It actually alters the physical structure of your enamel. All right, so let's say you've made your choice, you've finished your treatment, and you're loving the results. Now what? Well, let's tackle a really common myth, and then we'll get into how to make sure that bright smile actually lasts. Okay, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You've seen them everywhere, from the dentist's office to those at-home kits on Instagram. Those blue LED lights that are supposed to activate or supercharge the whitening gel. But do they actually work? What does the science really say? Well, this quote from an industry insider pretty much sums it up. The science is totally clear. The whitening gel works all by itself. It's a chemical reaction, no light needed. So what's the light even for? Well, that initial wow factor you see is often just your teeth being temporarily dehydrated from the light and heat. And as soon as they rehydrate, hours or maybe a day later, that extra boost just fades away. So long story short, the light is mostly just for show. Okay, so how do you keep your awesome results? It's really all about smart habits. I'm talking about being a little more mindful of those staining foods and drinks. You know the ones. Keeping up with your brushing and flossing like a champ. And this is a good tip. Use a gentle, low-abrasive toothpaste. That'll help you manage any new surface stains without being too harsh on your enamel. And of course, listen to your dental pro about when to do touch-ups. Phew, we have covered a ton of ground, so let's pull it all together now into one final takeaway to help you make the absolute best choice for your smile. So here it is, the final verdict, side by side. Hydrogen peroxide is your speed demon. It's all about fast, powerful initial results. The trade-off? A much higher risk of sensitivity and, as we saw, those physical changes to your enamel. On the other hand, you have carbamide peroxide. This is your slow and steady wins the race option. It takes a bit longer to get to that final brilliant shade, but it gets you there with way less sensitivity and, importantly, no observed changes to the structure of your enamel. But you know what? No matter which agent you're leaning towards, the research is absolutely unanimous on one thing. Professional supervision is non-negotiable. It is so critical. Only a dental professional can really assess what you need, help you manage any sensitivity, and just make sure the entire process is done safely and effectively. It's all about protecting your oral health for the long haul. And that really leads us to one last big picture thought. In this whole quest for a whiter smile, it can be so easy to get laser-focused on just the color, right? But true dental health is about so much more than just how things look. So the question I want to leave you with is this. As you're making these decisions about whitening, how can you make sure you're also putting the strength, the integrity, and the overall health of your teeth first for the rest of your life?